if you looked back at my earlier content, it's super cheesy, like workout videos, meal prep videos, things like that. And then we went to Thailand for annual training, kind of learned a couple of things with videoing techniques and things and editing. And then I met my mentor, Sergeant First Class Tyler Butterworth.
I'm Jesse Mandel, and this is Raven Conversation. And today I'm joined by Major John Howell. So he is the current Ops G33 in the Washington Army National Guard. You are also a social media content creator.
Thanks, sir.
Not just for the Washington Guard, but for the National Guard in general, correct? You're part of a group that's actually been picked to make content for social media.
I haven't been picked. I have not. You want to restart this or no?
No.
Keep rolling. All right. I haven't been picked. It's kind of more of an individual effort, but it did start because I worked in recruiting, Washington Army National Guard. I'm not a part of the team they're putting together, on the national level, but I definitely know some of those guys.
I want to be a draft pick on them. So we're here to talk about kind of how he gets his ideas, the social media content he creates, and kind of your career in general. So John, take it away. Intro and background on yourself.
Yeah. So my name's John Howell. I've been in the Army for about 12 and a half years. It's gone by super fast. Started out, I was an RTC cadet in Tennessee, so a long ways from here. I had an RTC scholarship, best program ever, commissioning and being debt-free once I was done. I went active duty, so I was an infantry officer. I did the branch detail program, started out infantry the first 3 years, and then I was first stationed here at JBLM. So I used to drive by Camp Murray all the time and see the Minuteman statue. And I'm like, what's going on over there? But I never asked any questions about the Guard. And then I switched to the intel route. I went to the career course down at Huachuca, got stationed at Fort Bragg. I was in the intel unit, the 525. Worked with some great people there. And while I was there, I was recruited by the Washington Army National Guard, Lieutenant Colonel Horn, who's the G35 right now. And we've worked together several times here over the last 3 years. He called me on a wet, raining day at Fort Bragg, and was like, hey, John, you should come check out the Guard. And he's like, I transitioned from active duty. I think this would be something good for you to do. And I talked to my wife about it, and I applied 3 times for the AGR program. A lot of it was timing. I was still in command there, didn't want to leave, really enjoyed my job there, but then I was on orders to go back to Arizona, so JBLM to Arizona to Fort Bragg and then back to Arizona, and I applied for the 3rd time, got hired on, and came back up here, and it's been really great. I was able to do an infantry company command here in the Guard. Best job I ever had in the Army. Really enjoyed it. It's one of the reasons why I kind of got started on social media. Yeah. And on the AGR side, worked at 81st Stryker Brigade, and then in recruiting for 2.5 years, and now I'm here as the G33.
Yeah. So you kind of gave a nice, quick. Dave Horn reached out to you, but how did you learn about the Guard? What's that thing that you learned about that was like, hey, the National Guard? What is that?
Yeah. So. When Colonel Horn called me, I absolutely hardly knew anything. I didn't know any National Guardsmen up until that point. Didn't know anything about the history of the Guard, what a drill weekend was like. I did know more about the reserve. My wife, she was active duty as well, transitioned to reserve. So I knew about the drill weekends because I had to watch the kids while she went to drill. But at Colonel Horn, in that first initial conversation, he talked about what the Guard had done over the last 20 years. And I remember one thing he brought up was the surge, and how units from the National Guard really backfilled active duty and helped out during that period. And I thought that was cool, that's something I didn't really know. And then just also about what they do for the state. And I've always wondered, why didn't a National Guard recruiter find me? What was wrong with me? But that was cool to learn about. It's not just, a federal force, which I didn't know anything about, it's a state force and what they do for the local community. And I'm all about that, I recognize the importance that is, especially I have 3 boys and, the community is everything for the family. So I like that the Guard has that. And it's not just a national level kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Recruiters, right? I didn't know anything about the Guard until a recruiter one day. I just walked into a recruiting office. I'm like, what's the National Guard?
Right.
So no one, it feels like, really tells you until you finally decide, hey, I'm interested in this. Yeah. So you already kind of alluded you're were an infantry officer. You went back in career course and became an intel officer, and then you've also kind of done more infantry since then. So why'd you pick infantry, and then why'd you decide to go intel?
So that's the great part about the Army. I did not pick the infantry. I wanted to be an AG or intel officer, and I knew there was a risk from RTC with branching. They were like, hey, 60% of you are probably going to do combat arms if you select one of those branches. And I was like, no, my grades are great, my PT score's great, I'm going to get it straight up. And I got the news from my professor of military science.
And congrats. Infantry.
Yeah. And it was like the whole world zoomed in on me, I was like, this cannot be happening. But that was a really great opportunity, because I will tell you, when I was a cadet, I was pretty immature, and doing something hard, something I didn't even plan on doing, it forced me to do something that I wasn't comfortable with. But I had an NCO at my RTC program who really just took me under his wing, infantry NCO, retired recently as a sergeant major. And I remember he told me, he's like, everything's going to be okay. He's like, you're going to have NCOs. They're going to put you right underneath their arm and just take care of you. And I really enjoyed it. I embraced it. And when I switched to Intel, it was different, because I was accustomed to something that I've been doing the last 3 years. But I know someone told me a long time ago that everywhere you go in the Army, there's good people everywhere. Yeah. And even when I went to an Intel unit, I loved my time there. They were a great group of people I got to work with, deploy with, really took care of me and my family. And then coming back to the Guard, I remember when I boarded for my AGR positions, they asked me what I wanted to do. I was like, if the opportunity to do an infantry company command is out there, I'd like to do that. And I'd already done a command as an intel officer. So I had my feet wet, but yeah, they gave me that opportunity coming here and won the 161, and it was really cool, because I kind of felt like I got back to my roots as a lieutenant, but at the same time doing another command, which is awesome, because you've already experienced some things, like don't do this, do that instead. So it was cool, kind of a second chance of command.
Yeah, that second company command always feels like a little bit of like hey, I've already learned all the mistakes I had to make in the first one in order to be good in the second one. So yeah, it's definitely different when you do that. For me, I had two intel commands, one very long one and one that was 18 months. And the beautiful part was the moving back to 341st, that second company command almost felt like coming home, one, because I grew up as a lieutenant over at the 341st, and then two was the majority of the unit was deployed overseas at that time. So I was kind of rebuilding something that wasn't there, and I was like, oh, so it was just a different type of command. Right. So yeah, it's having those two different different commands and different branches even, I think helps a ton. So
I think that's one of the coolest things about the National Guard is that flexibility, like I am still an intel officer, and but there's that flexibility, like, hey, you have a background in infantry, you want to do this, you can do that. If we see it all the time with soldiers coming from active duty, you want to try out another MOS career field, that's an awesome opportunity to Guard. So much flexibility.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things, and you kind of alluded to right there, like having that flexibility in the Guard to be like, hey, today I'm an infantry guy, tomorrow I'm going to be intel.
Right.
I'm a FA person, but now I want to be field, not field artillery, but I want to be a public affairs person. We see it all the time. So it's
cool.
So that kind of alludes, you were in recruiting for quite a while.
What?
Talk about your time in recruiting.
Yeah, so I will say this, I was not happy about going over there. Coming from active duty, you always hear that no one wants to be in recruiting. But General Sellers, he sent me over there when he was the chief of staff, and it just worked out really well, because the company I took over, it recently moved from Redmond to Yakima. Very small. We had about 50 people showing up for drill. And working in recruiting, you get to know your recruiters in the local area. I also found out about the active component to reserve component program, the pipeline. And I was like, hey, I should really embrace my job here in recruiting. On active duty, you don't worry about the recruiting problem. You worry about the retention. But in the Guard, it matters so much, because that's who's showing up for weekend drill. So I was captain. I was the S3 and in company command, and I really got involved with the active duty population that was thinking about ETSing. And I had Second Lieutenant Anderson, who you've had on the show before. He was an E7 on ADOS in recruiting, also in my company. And whenever we found people from active duty who were thinking about transitioning, we would go meet them at Starbucks on JBLM, give them the Guard pitch, and just talk about the benefits. And a lot of these guys were coming out of 2nd Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment. Anderson had history there. And so we would give our guard pitch, and try to get them to come to one of the 161 to our company. I guess that was kind of selfish in our own. But if they wanted, but if they wanted to go somewhere else, we were fine with that too. But we would talk about how it changed our life. I mean, both coming from active duty and how we really enjoyed it. And from 275, I think we ended up getting 9 from that one unit, which is super cool. That's like the NFL for the military. It was. I really fell in love with that process of talking to someone about something that's benefited you and sharing that with someone. And something I think has changed my whole outlook about always be recruiting, always be selling, what you know. And like even last week, I was over at the AutoZone. The guy who's ringing me up, young guy, just started talking to him. He was on active duty. It's like, have you thought about coming to the Guard? So, it's really just made me want, everywhere I go, just kind of share what the Guard has to offer. Yeah. And I think it's a great thing for people who are getting off of active duty to help out with that transition to the civilian world.
Yeah. So recruiting is where you started your social media kind of, I would say, content creation career in a way. So talk about what prompted you to start. It's Servant of Leaders, correct?
It is
that? Yeah. Yes. So what prompted you to start that?
I have to say 3 of the 161 who was involved with their unit page. I saw what they were doing, and I thought, there's great people in the 161 as well. I need to get people into my unit, and this is something that's free and available. And so I started the page, and if you looked back at my earlier content, it's super cheesy, like workout videos, meal prep videos, things like that. And then we went to Thailand for annual training, kind of learned a couple of things with videoing techniques and things and editing. And then I met my mentor, Sergeant First Class Tyler Butterworth, a National Guardsman in Virginia. I met him. He came out here for like a couple of days. And I had like one day to...
A beautiful mustache, too, by the way.
Best stash anywhere, right? And he talked to me about... he's like, your videos are great. Like, you're highlighting, soldier stories, your training, even the workout videos. Looking back, I think he was just saying that. But he's like, try doing humor, because that was something he had tried. And I thought, there's no way I can do that. I'm not that type of person. And then Taylor Anderson and I, one weekend on a Friday, were like, hey, you know what? Let's try to make 3 videos that are, that are kind of humorous. And we did, and we posted them, and I noticed, you can kind of watch the algorithm and the views, it picked up more. Yep. So we kept doing those, and that was the cool thing about working in recruiting. It wasn't just me making those. Lieutenant Anderson, Lieutenant Miller, also been on here. Yep. First Sergeant Carmack. It was like a team effort, and we were just kind of figuring things out. I know I probably didn't appreciate it at the time, but I appreciate your guidance as well. One of the big things now that I've learned through this journey is the importance of not posting in uniform, because I'm not a PAO. And I remember you telling me that a while back, and that's been like very freeing over this last year, not doing that as much, unless I'm working with a PAO, like a cadet command. But that was great as well. But, keeping it humorous, also keeping it clean. For the content, so anyone can watch it, from my kids to anyone out there. And it kind of picked up, and I was always still trying to find like my thing, like what was going to be my original content. You can do trends all day, but you need something that's your own. And about this time last year, on the 1st of October, I posted a video. It was very cringy. It was about a company commander, I guess talking to a lieutenant after he'd yelled at him. And when I made it, it was based on being myself as a lieutenant, a former company commander, which things got a lot better, but over the years. But I made that, and I thought, this isn't going to go anywhere. And I noticed... it did, and people would message me and be like, hey, this is very relatable. I see the humor in it, but this happened to me last week. And over the last year, that's kind of been my thing. Also, a lot of interactions with Cadet Command out at Fort Knox. It kind of took off from there, making cringe conversation, officer conversation content. And I never thought that would be the thing that would really resonate with people, but it did.
Do you find like pulling from your own like kind of experience as a younger officer and you bring that in, and then you kind of shape that video, or at least that kind of like skit into, okay, this is something I dealt with when I was like a lieutenant. Now I'm going to give it as like from the, major or captain kind of seat.
Oh, absolutely. And, it's funny, kind of like growing up in the Army, I thought I'm the only one going through this. And then you find out, that's not true. And it's kind of funny because it's also resonated onto different platforms. I remember I made one about a captain, or a major reviewing a weekly tasking order that a lieutenant had written. And then that kind of sparked an idea of on YouTube, it's like, let's make a long form video on how to write a weekly tasking order. So it's more educational. Mm-hmm. And, that started with a video that, with some, this character I play with a major just kind of, roughing up a lieutenant on his inability to spell, to being able to share with other units and people on staff, like, hey, why don't you try this format for a weekly tasking order? So that's been kind of cool. It sparked something that I didn't think it would go in that direction. And I think that's the cool thing about the multiple platforms. They all have a different flavor, from Instagram to YouTube, and how you can use those and help out people.
Yeah. So, and you've taken some of this home, right? You've done videos at home.
Yeah.
I've seen a few where your kids are involved, your wife's involved. There's ones where you're standing in your bathroom. And I think one of my favorite ones you've ever done is when you're standing there in your dress uniform and you're staring at the mirror, and I think it's like West Point, like reunion or something, and you're like talking at somebody. What does your family think of this?
They enjoy it. I mean, it's pretty neat. My oldest son, he's 9, and he's been able to be in a couple of videos, and he enjoys that a lot. And my wife, I think I completely surprised her when I told her, like, hey, I think I'm going to start up an Instagram page for recruiting. But she's really embraced it as well, and I think she sees the good in it. And I'll tell you, recently, Captain Quinn, he gave me a book. It's called Digital Minimalism, and I read that, and it was really good. And it made me kind of self-reflect and realize, like, hey, maybe I am spending too much time on my phone, things like that. So trying to find that balance with everything. And I've noticed, just over the last month or so, since I've kind of backed off, like put the phone away, this is time with a family. That's really helped as well, achieving that balance, because you really can get sucked in, tracking the likes, the views, all of that, the messages that people send to you. So it's all about finding balance, not letting anything take too much time from you. So that's been very helpful as well, with the family requirements, and also this thing I'm kind of doing on the side.
Yeah. So I kind of try to practice the same thing, right? I put the phone away. I don't look at it, by a certain time at night. And I find that sometimes that actually helps you with some of your freshest ideas. Do you think that's actually helping kind of keep the ideas fresh in your brain? Like, hey, I'm thinking of something different.
Right. Absolutely. And something I also kind of implemented is I used to try to post every day, and now I'm trying to just do like 3 times a week, so something like that. But yes, I have noticed like there's more time to reflect, think, and jot down ideas that I might have. And they come from all kinds of things. I'd say probably one of my biggest inspirations is you hear a certain song, and that kind of leads to an idea of a video, or you just have like a certain topic, that you'd like to address. But the idea is I usually get them in the morning driving into work or working out. I'd say those are 2 biggest things. And my wife, she's also like my handle. She helped me come up with that. Like, I have no idea what I want to, name myself. And she's like, well, everyone's always talking about servant leadership. Why don't you call it servant of leaders? It's kind of very sarcastic. But they've been very involved with this and very helpful. And I think it's a lot of fun when you can do that. And that's one thing I love about my mentor, Tyler Butterworth. He's like the greatest of all time in getting his family involved. It's a family kind of ordeal. So I want to try to keep doing that.
Talk quickly about the experience at Fort Knox. You got to work with Cadet Command.
Yeah.
Talk about that, because you got to make content there even. So.
I did, yeah. So last year they invited me out for a Raider Challenge, just the JRTC event. That was my first interaction with them, working with the PAO team. They were awesome to work with. And then this spring, I got to go to Sandhurst, West Point, and I was received very well by the West Pointers. I was wondering how that was going to go,
after being like the West Point video.
Yeah, but it went very well. It was very cool meeting all those different programs and talking to the cadets. And then recruiting had asked me to go TDY to work the branch days, and there were several things I got to do there. I worked the blood drives and the bone marrow registry, try to give back in that way. And then the rest of my time was like, let me get out to the lanes and talk to the cadets and run around and interview with them. And PAO team did a great job of integrating me, giving me the card to say, hey, you're authorized to do this, and run around. And that was I was there for 2 months. It went by so fast, but it really makes me excited for this younger generation. Because I think they're going to do such great things. They're so positive. They work very well in teams. I think they really care about people. And it's great to see that because it's easy to be. I would say before I started doing social media and meeting these people, I was a cynic. Like this generation, they're not as hard as my generation is, but they really are inspiring. And I love seeing that. Working with Cadet Command has been one of the best experiences ever through all of this. Yeah, just getting out there and talking to them and learning about them.
Yeah. So of all the skits or videos you've done, what's your absolute favorite, and why is it Blue Man Group? Because honestly, when I saw Blue Man Group for the first time, I thought, did John seriously paint himself blue? And now you've touched everything in the building. Yeah.
So that was inspired from a family vacation down to Las Vegas, family reunion down there, and we went and did the Blue Man Group. And I came back and was like, that could be a funny idea. And when I told my wife, I was like, hey, I'm ordering the skin paint, she was like, just make sure it's stuff that comes off. And I might have left a handprint, somewhere on a door over there. But that was a cool one to do because it was taking something from a family vacation, applying it to the Army. That's one's completely made up. I didn't have anyone that knew they did that. I would say about a year and a half ago, I got to work with a USAREC recruiter, staff sergeant, who he was originally from South Korea, and got his citizenship through the Army on active duty. But he knew a lot about videography, and we shot a video with a cyber truck, and it was like here in the Guard, you have soldiers, privates, E4s, have a huge civilian job, on the side, and we did a video about what that soldier drives and what I drive. It's like a 2011 Toyota Camry, and that one was a cool one because I just hand my phone to Sergeant On, that was his name. He does this awesome shot of this, and it's just like one smooth shot, and we posted, and a lot of people were just thought it was hilarious because they've seen that play out so many times, especially in the National Guard. So working with him, and I was in National Guard recruiting, and I'm working with a USAREC recruiter, and that really was cool because we got to see two art forms come together, Sergeant On's and then kind of mine, but also it's two different components of the Army working together. And it really, when he left, he moved to San Diego last year, but that was cool because it was like we're all on the same team, whether you're working in USAREC or in the National Guard. You might be competing for candidates or applicants, but we're all on the same team at the end of the day. So that was a very I would say that video, the Cybertruck video, was very cool to put together.
What kind of advice would you give that younger generation, or even anybody just interested in becoming a social media content creator?
I would say find your purpose, like why you're doing it. I think I see a lot in this community. This is my personal take. If you're selling shirts or trying to make money, I think you're going about it wrong. It's got to be about something bigger than yourself or your bank account. And that's something I've always tried to stick to, trying to leverage your community to help someone else. When I was at Fort Knox, the bone marrow registry, doing these swab kits, that's going to help out, future soldiers and their families who need a bone marrow transplant. So finding something that gives you value that's more than just the monetization, because that's very empty. And I guess I would say, secondly, understand the time that you'll put into it, but also understand that you got to find that balance, especially if you have a family. So those would be my two things: finding your purpose and then making sure you're maintaining the time, not taking too much away from your work or your family, just balance in all those areas.
Anything else, because we're kind of closing?
I would just say, if you've not heard of Salute to Life, this is a great program. I was made aware of it earlier this year. There was an E5 at Fort Bragg, 23 years old, needed a bone bone marrow transplant. They were telling him he was going to get leukemia. And Fort Bragg and Fort Hood both did a really good job of putting together drives. You can go to salutelife.org. They'll send you a kit, and all it does is get you added to the registry, potentially match with someone and help someone out in the future. I'm a big proponent of this, trying to get everyone here in this building to get on the registry. But that's my plug. It's a good program that's helping people out all over the Army.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's incredibly important. So thanks for coming on, John, and sharing your story with us. We appreciate it. If you liked the video, give it a like. If you have any questions or want to make any comments, we'll definitely pass those along to you, John, and let them know. If you like the videos, subscribe and make sure to hit the notification for future videos. John, appreciate you coming.
Appreciate it, sir. Thank you.